growls often when she sees or hears people or other animals outside our house or car. She does not exhibit any signs of aggression, but it does escalate to barking or extended growling sometimes, so we have directed her for it. Corrected her, I think that's supposed to say. Not sure if that's needed or recommended. As you know, she plays very well with other dogs and is basically a big stuffed teddy bear otherwise, which is accurate. So Ruby is a really small, like mini golden doodle that we worked with recently. Super good dog. She's a very hyperactive dog, right? So she's got a very, very hyperactive nervous system that tends to get herself into trouble with like impulsive behaviors, right? And a lot of times when we get into growling, so again, what sparked this question here in particular was a post we made talking about if we're correct, you can correct for growling. It's not inappropriate, but if you're not addressing the reason why the dog is growling in most cases, you can kind of create this like time bomb of the dog bottling up that emotion, adding more stress to it, and that stressful thing is still happening, which could cause them to lash out much more intensely, right?
Yeah.
This is not a case of that, right? When I look at situations where growling needs to be corrected for and we need to address outside factors, 9 out of 10 times it's when a person or a dog is doing something to the dog that's causing them to growl, right? So for example, people coming up into their space. You're out on the walk, somebody's approaching your dog, doing something very intrusive to them. Your dog doesn't have flight as an option because they're on a leash, which is why we don't recommend on-leash greetings, obviously. And you're correcting the dog for growling, but that person is still invading their space, right?
Yeah.
That's giving mixed messages. That's saying, don't growl here, but the scary thing is still happening, right? Which is, again, going to cause the dog to bottle up that emotion and kind of lash it out more intensely at the person when they no longer can contain themselves anymore. So you would still correct for the growling, but you also would set the boundary, hey, don't come up to my dog, right? This is not a case of that. Again, this is just a dog that's seeing things and taking it upon themselves because of that hyperactive nervous system to display discomfort. Oh, that thing over there, I don't like. Oh, that thing over there, I don't like. Right? And again, it's not coming from this aggressive place. It's just this frantic display of, I don't like these things, right? Nothing is actively happening to the dog. It's causing them to do that, right?
Yeah.
Which means that it can be corrected for, right? I want to tell my dog, if I'm inside the house, and Vera used to do this a lot, like when she was a lot younger, right? We'd be in the house and she would hear somebody walk outside past the house, and her territorial instinct would kind of kick in. She'd, right? And I corrected for it 100% of the time. Hey, don't worry about what's going on out there, right? You need to be worried about what's going on in here. You need to get your attention off of that thing out there, right? Nothing's happening to you right now. You're taking it upon yourself to go try and act intimidating, right? Or an example of if a person came to your house and the person is just sitting on their, on your couch, minding their own business, and your dog walks over to them and looks at them and goes, right?
Yeah.
Unwarranted, right? The person's not doing anything to you, right? Cut it out. Give a correction for that, right? So in this context, yes, correcting for it would be 100% appropriate. Now, the big thing is a lot of people will not be fully prepared for these scenarios to correct it consistently enough. So what happens is the dog gets away with it more times than not. Or because the dog is such a good dog otherwise, like Ruby is a really good dog, we tend to underwhelm the dog with the corrections for it, right? Set that tone right away. Get on the dog for it. Make sure it's a motivating enough correction. Make sure you snap their attention off of it as quickly as you can in those types of situations. And 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to run into any problems with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's typically how I'll look at that kind of situation. Is nothing too crazy. It's simply a matter of your dog is doing like nuisance growling, basically, right? So they need to be told to stop doing that. And particularly where you see it go through the escalation of the growling, then turns into the excessive barking or excessive growling and this and that. And it just gets messy very quick. So just give a correction for it, right? And start setting that tone of correcting much higher for it so you could see that behavior actually go away completely. Because here's the thing, corrections that don't lead to an actual decrease in the behavior they're not working. You're doing something wrong, right? So if you're finding yourself, I'm correcting, but it's not actually accomplishing anything, something about your correction is wrong, whether it's the consistency in where you're applying it or it's the motivation of the actual correction for the behavior.